So let me ask you a question first. I know it's Frank, right? You already wrote something and you're looking to publish. Did anybody else here not start writing yet and you're wanting to write? So you want to write, but you didn't start it yet. Do you know how many times children laugh in a day? 400 times. Now there's a point to this. Children laugh 400 times a day. Adults, we laugh maybe a dozen times, 10 times a day. There are so many children's books to give kids such wonderful advice and wisdom. Here's my point. What we lose sometimes as an adult is our imagination, our vision. We lose it. We get busy being busy. We have kids, we got this, we got work, we got stuff. We lose it. How did I write my first book? It's called The Breakthrough Journey. I was in the park. I was walking my dog one morning, and even before this, for months, I like creative things. I was a music major in school first, then I was in business. I like creative things. I thought, how wonderful would it be if I wrote a book and had it on my bookshelf? I was in a park one day. I sat on a bench, and I was looking at a pond, and there was a heron. A heron was looking at me. I was with my dog. The dog is woofing at the heron. The heron's looking at me, and I'm saying, wow, what if that heron could talk? So, one thing that we need to remember when you start writing, if you write something that you know, love, it's easier to write. So I'm looking at the heron and I'm saying, okay, I lived by 5 values all my life. Well, not all my life. Years ago, when I was a kid, I didn't know it. When I finally codified what I believed in, they became 5 values. They were vision, purpose, commitment, passion, and love. I'm looking at the heron and I'm saying, wow, how cool would that be if the heron could talk to me? And that's how the book started. Now, the book, the heron talked to the protagonist of the book, the main character, and the heron brought Joseph, the main character, to meet 5 different people. And each of the 5 people taught him 5 different values: the vision, purpose, commitment, passion, and love. I went home and I said, okay, now what? I got this idea. How do I do this? It took me weeks because I'm thinking, okay, what do I do this? I'm a what if guy. So what if this happens? What if that happens? What do I do after? How do you get it published? What do I start? How do I do grammar? I went on and on and on. Finally, one day I said, and I realized the hardest thing to do was write the first page. So I sat down and it was like talking to a friend. And meanwhile, I'm getting Herman to talk to this guy who brought him to other 5 people to teach him these 5 values. I interviewed a commercial printing company, a couple printing companies. This one printing company had a graphic artist. She did the cover, and they printed the book before. Well, let me go back. I also interviewed some editors. I found an editor. She was wonderful. So we talked a lot about it. She gave me a lot of ideas. She read the book. Okay, this is great. You need to change this. She took my gobbledygook and made it something readable. And to show you sometimes what happens, this book, somebody read it in Bucks County, and it got to a producer in Bala Cynwyd. The producer is one who does TV, and she does editorial things for NBC. She read the book and she said, if this guy is who he is, then we might want to use him to her production manager. The production manager comes out to see me. They chose me to do a pilot for a TV show just from this little book. So it was pretty cool, and it's amazing how one thing happens after the other. After I did this, I found it to be so much fun. The next thing I did was a little bit more nonfiction. I wrote 2 books about leadership and management. And it was such a great experience. Same thing, I loved the editor. The editor took the books. She gets paid per hour. She was wonderful, she helped me through it. After she edited my stuff, I took it to a couple people for testimonials before I got it printed. Because within the books, I have the testimonials too. So, the editor went back to the same printer, same graphic designer with the printer, did a book signing at Doylestown Bookshop, if you know Doylestown at all. But again, the point is, have fun. Sit down and don't think about it. And I wrote on a legal pad, because when I did it on the computer, I said, uh-oh, backspace here, grammar's not right. Is it a semicolon or is it a colon? Or this or that. Yeah. You were wonderful, Amber, with the academia and the educational way to do this. I'm one of the guys who did it by the seat of your pants. So I couldn't do it on the computer. I did it by hand. And then when I had that, I would go back to the computer, put everything on the computer, and then at that point went to the editor and went to the printer. It was a wonderful experience. And again, I go back to this, everybody has some creativity. We all, again, we lose it being busy. But if you care to do it, if you have the interest and the desire to put something on paper, it's not that hard. And don't think about it as who's going to like it, who's going to buy it, where do I do it? Just
do it.
Just do it.
Just do
That's
it.
it. So thank you.
So you totally self-published.
Yes,
You did what I did with the children's book, but you did it all yourself.
I did it all myself. Yeah.
Did you get your books up on Amazon or
Not
any
yet,
place?
no.
Not
And
yet.
actually, I've been thinking about that, but the books, the 2 leadership books that I wrote, I'm now involved in consulting and doing some speaking as a motivational speaker. So the books were the catalyst to get me these gigs doing some speaking work. Just did a group of salespeople and some other, I was in the salon and spa industry. So those books got around, floated in the industry. That gave me, they were the catalyst to get me some consulting work and some speaking work.
I do some substitute teaching. I don't have an educational background, although I was educated in Michigan. And I talk with kids, a lot of kids, when we talk about editors, a lot of kids don't want to, they're afraid of writing. They're afraid of putting things down. And because they can't spell, they can't do this, they can't do that. And the first thing I do is I go up on the whiteboard and I put UKENREDTIS. And what's that say? You can read this. And well, that's my point. All bad spelling, all bad words, put it down. And this is what I was thinking about now as far as writing for all of us, any of us. You want to take what's in your head and put it on paper. Like the flash, what was it called? The sprint? Just put it on paper. Don't worry about spelling, don't worry about grammar, don't worry about punctuation. Get your thoughts down on paper. We're all doing first drafts and whatever else. We're asking people, paying people to edit. That's where it can all come out. The idea is you've got, your brain is going 1,000 miles an hour, much faster than I'm speaking right now, and far faster than you can put anything down on paper. Just get it on paper. Now you have all these other things that all 3 authors here have talked about. You've got editors there, and you redraft. Then you start parsing it and fixing it, but get it down, so don't be afraid to put trash down on paper, you know? And even if it takes you 40 or 50 years.
That was my problem in the beginning. How do I do this? I don't know how to spell. I don't know grammar. I don't know this. I just did it on a legal pad, and then from there it went to what I have now.
I found it interesting you went with the printers first. How did you come up with a list of printers? And I met that cost. But did they say, I'm going to make 100 books, or how did that work?
I interviewed a couple printers, and I found one actually in the area, a commercial printer that, she was wonderful. But she'll give you a price for, you want 100 books or you want 500 books, she'll give you a price. And they have a graphic designer as well who actually put it all together and did the covers. So, and the editor that I worked with, she was wonderful too.
Yeah.
So there are people around, and it's not that hard.
You know, the interesting thing, if you don't mind me jumping in, the printer that I used, I think networking is amazing. I have to tell you that. The printer I used was a guy who worked for me 1996. And he came from France as a student on a student visa, and he got his citizenship by lottery. And after he left the job that he had, he became a printer. So I kept in touch with him all these years because we lived in Lancaster County for 25 years, and he would come out. One of my obligations to have this student on a visa was that I had to show him around and get him acclimated to the world as we know it in this country. And I kept in touch with him all these years, so he's the person I called. Tony, will you print for me? Yeah, sure. And then he sent me all kinds of samples and all the rates and so on and so forth. So that's how I got my printer. I think networking is amazing. It's like my cousin finding the publisher, and you know, you never know who you know.